Holla and hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. Ahan Finance. Check him out, link down below. He's got this video, Don't Rent in Germany, without watching this video. Now, let me tell you, the reason I searched up a video about renting in Germany was because every week at the beginning of the week, I react to the top posts in the German subreddits, right? Last week in Germany, that's what I call it. And every week, there's these posts about, they're like horror stories about renting, about landlords, basically. Landlords in Germany, I don't know what's wrong with them. I really don't. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they suck here in America too, for the most part. But it seems like on Germany, I'm just going to be honest, seems like it's a little bit of a different level. Like, they're up your ass. They're weird. They try to penny pinch. That's just, I mean, I've just been reading these posts so much, guys. I hate to say something negative about Germany, but if there's something negative that has become apparent to me, it's the landlords. And I'm just curious to dive into the subject a little bit more, you know, okay, this guy says, don't rent in Germany without watching this video. I'm just curious about this subject. After hearing so much bad about it, hey, maybe this video is about all the great things about it. I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. Anyway, go check out his channel, Ahan Finance. Link down below. Let's see.
We all have horror stories as a tenant in Germany, from horrendous living conditions.
What was I saying? What is it? Is this a real, like, big problem in Germany? Is there are a lot of just bad landlords?
To safety hazards and outright unlawful behavior. As a student, my landlord asked for my passport. When I showed him, he snatched it away from me just because my friend in the apartment was a little bit late on his rent payment.
Your friend was late on the rent, so the landlord snatched your passport. I don't know. I just got a random pain in my side, guys. If I kill over, alert the police, please. But tell them not to send an ambulance because I don't want to go into debt. Just let me die.
That was a horrifying experience and I did not know what I could do. That is why in this video, I share the things that your landlord cannot get away with. Watch this video till the end.
Ooh, interesting. And most people in Germany rent, right? Compared to America, more people are renting.
And as I will also share why you are not responsible to clean the mold in your rental apartment. I've learned most of these things the hard way, but I do not want you to suffer like I did. So let's start with the maintenance obligation. Landlords are obliged to maintain or repair a property. This means that the landlord has to bear the cost for necessary repairs to water, electricity, and gas pipes.
Same as here in America.
Landlord may only ask the tenant to pay for small repairs to objects in the apartment. For example, the tenant has to pay for the replacement of light switches, door handles, or damaged pull cords on blinds.
It's random. Light switches? Okay.
According to the law, the upper limit for these small repairs is between 75 to 100 euros. But
reasonable.
The individual limit or the maximum limit must be specified in the rental agreement.
I like that.
If it's not mentioned in the rental agreement or if it is written incorrectly, then you as a tenant do not bear the responsibility to pay for those repairs. Coverage for repairs. If there are some small repairs needed to make the apartment look better, the landlord is responsible for fixing them if the rental agreement doesn't say otherwise. Or
it's getting kind of confusing, you know. This type of stuff, these protections are all great, except the problem is you have this giant rental agreement that you've got to, you basically have to be a lawyer to go through it all, and then, you know, that's the unfortunate thing.
Or if it's written incorrectly. The most important thing is how the apartment looked when the tenant moved in. If the apartment was not in a good condition when the tenant moved in, and
that's why you got to take pictures.
There was no agreement about fixing it, then the landlord and the tenant will have to share the cost of fixing it. Removal
share the cost.
Defects and damage. In principle, landlords are obliged to hand over an apartment to the tenant in a faultless and proper condition and to maintain it during the rental period. If things get damaged from normal use, like floors that get worn out, pipes with leaks, or window frames that get broken, it's the landlord's responsibility to fix them.
I like how window frames is mentioned. Like here in America, that's not as common, probably because people just aren't opening the windows. They're basically just unused. 99% of the time, you might open a window once a year. So the frames don't really break. They're also so much simpler, you know, they're kind of shitty here in America. But it's okay because you don't ever use them. In Germany, you guys got the fancy ones, which I assume if you use them all the time, it might break. Now, don't get me wrong. Of course, the AC breaks all the time. Mine broke yesterday. It was 93 degrees. Sorry.
The landlord's
Which is hot, okay? That's 93 degrees. Freedom units! I don't know what that is in Celsius. It's freaking hot.
or window frames that get broken, it's the landlord's responsibility to fix them. Elimination of mold. When there is mold in the apartment, it's important to figure out who is responsible for getting rid of it. According
I could see it, like, if you're the one making the mold by not ventilating a bathroom and then getting your water everywhere, then I don't know, I could see that being your problem.
to a court ruling, if there is mold in the apartment, the landlord has to prove that it's
Okay.
not because of things like leaks in the building. If the
Oh,
landlord
okay.
cannot prove that, then they have to pay for getting rid of the mold and any other problems that come with it. But if the landlord can prove
That's how it should be.
that the mold is not their fault, then the tenant has to prove that they did not cause the mold by doing things like not ventilating or heating the apartment enough. If the tenant can prove
Aha.
that, then they have to pay for getting rid of the mold. Sometimes the tenants try to fix
See, there's probably more mold here in America because people they're not opening the windows as much. Obviously, that's good for venting it out, getting rid of that musty crap that makes mold. You know, but the bathrooms have fans. I wonder if yours do. The bathrooms have fans that are in the ceiling that ventilate. It's not a ceiling fan. It's different. It's a bathroom fan. It's in the ceiling, and it ventilates the air to help prevent mold.
the mold problems themselves by just painting over it or using anti-mold sprays. This is not a good idea because it
Painting over.
doesn't get
That's called the landlord special here in America.
rid of the real problem, and the mold can still be there. The mold can also be deeper than what's visible on the surface. It's common for people to wait too long before telling the landlord about the mold. But legally, if there is mold in the apartment, the tenant has to tell the landlord about the mold. Please hit the like button if you're getting value
The tenant has to tell them. Okay. All right. Hey, that's fair enough. It does seem like the tenants overall are very well protected in Germany.
from this video and consider subscribing. Sometimes both the building and the tenant's behavior can be the cause for the mold in the apartment,
Right.
which is quite common to be honest. In this case, an expert would be needed to come in and look at the situation to figure out who is responsible for this mold. I have a written article on
Then you got to pay for the expert. See, all this shit, all the costs build up. You know, then you got to go to court. Who's paying for the expert? Okay, now who's paying for the mold? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, the expert was biased. You know, he's your cousin. He's the landlord's cousin. He's biased. He says it was my fault. It wasn't.
this topic with more details
I don't know what I'm talking about at this point.
on ahanfinance.com. Utility billing. Landlords have to give tenants a bill for utilities every year if the tenant pays for utilities in
Every year?
advance every month, like most people do in their Nebenkosten. A period of 1 year must be observed to give the bill. This means that the utility bill for 2022 must be prepared by December 31st, 2023. If the landlord doesn't do it by then, they cannot charge the tenant any extra money, but the tenant still gets any money back that they have overpaid. Providing the heating. The landlord has to make sure that the apartment can be heated to at least 20 degrees Celsius.
Let me see what that is. In freedom units, guys. You guys know I'm kidding about that. 68 Fahrenheit. That's a nice temp. That's a nice temp right there. What did I just do? I'm back.
During the heating period, which is from 1st of October to 30th of April. If the landlord cannot do this, the tenant can lower the rent, but only by a reasonable amount. Announcement of house rules. The landlord must inform the tenant of the house rules. This means they have to show the rules to the tenant. In order for it to have legal validity, it must be part of the rental agreement. If this is the case, the tenant also documents the acknowledgement of the house rules with their signature. Garden maintenance.
It's kind of funny. House rules. Like, What happens when they find some random thing not in the house rules and they're doing that? Like they're doing some crazy shit that no one would have even thought anybody would do. And they're like, it's not in the house rules.
Who is responsible for garden maintenance depends on the content of the rental agreement. Property
You know, putting peanut butter into the furnace wasn't against the house rules.
managers regularly delegate garden work on the content of the rental agreement. Property managers regularly delegate garden work to the appropriate service providers with
That's an American playground. You can't tell me that was Germany. German playgrounds aren't plastic like that. That's an American playground.
the cost being passed to the tenants. If the lease contains the wording that the tenant takes care of the garden, this refers to minor work. Time-consuming work, for example, laying a new lawn, removing a dead tree, and pruning a tall tree are all part of the landlord's responsibilities. Accountability. The landlord has to make sure that the costs for things like utilities and maintenance are reasonable and normal. They have to show the tenants receipts and invoices if the tenants ask for them. This is so the landlord can explain
They should.
why the costs went up and prove that they are reasonable. However, the landlord doesn't have to pick the cheapest option available. The things that I have mentioned in this video are protected by law and you should not be afraid to assert them if necessary. What my landlord did at the time was totally illegal and I could have taken him to court and would have easily won. So if you have any questions or concerns,
That's the thing, like I still feel you might hesitate, right? Because you're like, yeah, I could take him to court and win, but what if I don't win? And what if then I'm liable for the court costs and I'm poor and I don't have time to go to court? You know, that's the unfortunate thing.
about your rights as a tenant in Germany, please seek legal advice. In this video, I share some of the best legal insurances in Germany.
I wonder how much it costs to go to court in Germany compared to America. Because in America, you gotta be kind of rich to be suing people. That was a really nice video. Very concise, very fast. A lot of information. Go check out his other videos. Ahan Finance. Link down below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.